Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and this Air Force veteran confronts J.D. Vance with a very important question. But what J.D. Vance does next, and Tulsi Gabbard helps him out too, what they do and how they answer is absolutely phenomenal. But before we dive in, I want to give a quick shout out to our great sponsors over at Colonial Metals Group. They quite literally have the cure to buy inflation and Harris economics, but more on that later. Now, let's dive in.
I'm Ron, retired from the Air Force after 30 years. Air Force. I can say who. My question regards armed forces recruiting and retention. Services are having difficulty making goals just now. Went through the COVID era with a mandated vaccine. That's right. I know DOD discharged thousands of troops for refusal to take that vaccine. And we have a lot of young people today who are just frankly unfit to begin military service. And I know you've got a Make America Healthy plan. Could you talk a little about that and how that can address some of these issues?
Yeah, well, Ron, I'm happy to take a first stab at that question. And then, Tulsi, I'd love to hear your thoughts, too, because, of course, I think Tulsi understands as well as anybody why the military might be having recruitment challenges in the 21st century. And I think there are a couple of things going on, Ron, is number one, you hit the nail on the head. Why were we firing brave, young, and healthy Marines, soldiers, sailors, and airmen because they wouldn't take the COVID shot? We should let people make these decisions themselves, not throw them out of the military because of it. But of course, that's not just thousands of Americans who were thrown out of the military, and it was a disgrace, and Donald Trump and I have promised that we're going to offer all of those people a return to service with back pay on top of it. That's important. But Ron, think about the effect that has on morale. What does it do when you fire people for simply exercising their own judgment about what they want to put into their own body? What does that say to the next generation of soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines? What does it say to their family members? Because we know, in my family, my grandma, my mamaw, had 6 grandchildren. 3 of us enlisted in the United States Marine Corps out of high school. Very often, military service is a family affair. So what we did, I think, was a massive slap in the face to our troops, but it also really, really hurt morale. And the final thing I'll say, and again, I want to hear Tulsi's views on this too, is people want to sign up for the United States military because they love their country and they want to engage in public service. They don't want to sign up in the military because of a bunch of progressive ideas. They don't want to be enforcers of one political party's dogma. They want to serve the whole United States of America. And I think unfortunately, whether it's DEI training or, you have our State Department funding progressive politics in foreign countries, like why do your tax dollars need to be funneled through the State Department to do like trans pride parades in the Czech Republic? Like, what does that have to do with the America's national interest?
Good question.
Even if you agree with that, and I imagine none of us do, but even if you agree with it, that has nothing to do with America's national interest, so why are our taxpayers funding that stuff? But when you do that, it makes people not want to serve their country because they're worried they're not serving the whole United States of America, they're serving Kamala Harris's radical agenda, and that's going to stop the minute Donald J. Trump becomes president.
JD, I want to go back to what you said in response to the first question that we had, with the fact that every single one of us who's here, anyone watching from home, any one of us who's raised our right hand and volunteered, the less than 1% of all Americans who volunteer to serve in our armed forces, we do so, and our families know that service and that volunteerism may require us to pay the ultimate price. And we do so willingly because of love for our country and our commitment to defending the safety, security, and freedom of the American people. What we don't sign up for is to be used as cannon fodder by politicians who are trying to fund the military-industrial complex or make themselves look tough.
Absolutely. Y'all, the real reason recruitment is so down isn't because our country isn't worth serving. It's not because it's not a financial option for a lot of Americans. And seriously, you can save a lot of money if you're a soldier. Granted, I think the joke goes that you'll put a down payment for a red Camaro. I think that's the joke, or a Dodge Charger. So, someone correct me on that in the comments, please. But the real reason that we can't get people to serve in the military is because we have slapped our soldiers in the face. Anyone who has ever been through the VA system will tell you that how we treat our veterans is just vile. We don't give them the respect they deserve, and we don't even give them a viable government option to get health care. All right? And I've delivered medical supplies to VA hospitals. Compared to the other hospitals around, this was one of the lower ones on the list. It wasn't great. Hey y'all, I'm not exactly looking at retirement anytime soon, but my parents are, and friends of my parents are, and I'm sure either you or someone you know is looking at retirement and wondering, what do I do? How do I help prepare for this in this economy with this terrible president and with a vice president who basically coup d'etat him and is now looking to run for president herself? How do you protect against this? Well, simple. You go over to my friends at Colonial Metals Group. They quite literally have something called the Retirement Package Plan. This plan backs your wealth with gold and silver accounts. And furthermore, you will have direct access to these accounts. So you're not at the whims of Wall Street. You're not at the whims of inflation. You are in command of your own destiny. As a bonus, qualified applicants can receive up to $10,000 in free silver, plus a couple of other little goodies that they're going to package up for you, and you're going to be able to protect your wealth and your retirement. So go over to this link in the description below at colonialmetalsgroup.com or call this number 800-203-0422 and see how they can help you prepare for retirement today by backing your account with gold and silver. Don't delay your retirement, folks. Protect the money that you earned with Colonial Metals Group. They're here to help. And so, what Tulsi Gabbard is really hitting on is after 9/11, we'd also decided that not only do we have to pursue the terrorists in Afghanistan, we need to invade Iraq. Now, granted, the premise for this was, they have weapons of mass destruction, which, by the way, we actually found them, but they were like all from the Reagan era and they were all defunct. So we lied to go into Iraq. This was something that the Democrats and a lot of liberals were really harping on. But the real reason we went into Iraq was to protect the petrodollar, because everyone buys oil in US dollars. Saddam Hussein said, you know what, in order to pay my debts, I'm not going to do this, and I'm going to threaten to invade Kuwait again. And so, we go into Iraq to protect American interests. And it initially worked. Our invasion succeeded. And what happened is in 2005, we got new management and new leadership. And when that happened, for some reason, someone said, hey, let's criminalize anyone who has been in the Ba'ath Party. The people that made up the Ba'ath Party, about 10% of the population. We're going to criminalize you and then say you can't own a job. That devastated Iraq, because you just told the very people that could have saved their government, because what you do when you want a regime change, this is how you do it. It's an ugly business. But you keep killing leadership until things improve. That's actually how you do it. From a historical perspective, this is why we failed in Iraq, this is why we failed in Afghanistan, and it's why we succeeded in Germany, Japan, and South Korea. We did the dirty work, and we just lost our stomach for it. And in losing our stomachs for actual regime change, we then made an incredibly stupid decision to criminalize 10% of all Iraqi men. And thus the insurgency began, and it messed everything up. Then the Afghanistan war was botched time and time again, simply put, because we couldn't get into the tunnels fast enough, we couldn't get into the mountains fast enough. They were always one step ahead of us. So we were basically telling our soldiers that we weren't good at our jobs. That's what happened. And a lot of veterans who have fought in those wars end up becoming huge libertarians or huge Trump supporters because he represents a change to the regime. We don't have a George Marshall right now. The biggest reason we succeeded in our military was because George Marshall had the idea to reorganize the military, get everyone on the same page, and make sure no one was breaking rank. Make sure no one's sniping at each other. He had a huge problem with Patton because of this, but Patton was someone that was so good that you couldn't kick him out. Okay? You don't kick out your competent people, y'all, no matter what the infraction. Although, in the case of Deshaun Watson, he lost his ability to be competent. One of the most deserved injuries in the NFL. But regardless of that, we don't have a George Marshall right now. Maybe Trump, after his experience, he becomes that George Marshall and he gets our military reorganized. But we don't exactly need that. We need someone who is going to deliver good government. We deserve good government, and we have not gotten that. Things are too bloated. The people that we have in charge aren't getting things done. And we're seeing time and time again of resources being wasted or resources being denied. And so Tulsi Gabbard is sick of this, and she's sick of Democrats who have just abandoned those core issues. I remember when the most leftist person in America were the Democrat Party talking about the war in Iraq, saying that this was mismanagement on a global scale. I remember them saying that our food is unhealthy, and I remember them saying that the corporations are absolutely destroying us. What happened to the Democrat Party? And the reason I talk like a Democrat is because, well, they had a point 20 years ago, but they're not talking about it now. The GOP is now realizing that they kind of screwed up the Bush administration. They had an opportunity to fix a lot of problems, and they failed. And so the new coalition of the Republican Party seeks to right that wrong. That's why J.D. Vance turned from a never-Trumper. That's why Tulsi Gabbard's on the campaign. It's why RFK Jr. is so important. And it's why Vivek Ramaswamy wrote a literal book about how woke culture captured corporate America. The very talking points that the most ardent Democrats used to talk about are no longer the case. And the Republicans have realized we've made a mistake. And so we're going to right that mistake. That's what this whole campaign is about. Righting the wrongs that impotent politicians refused to talk about and refused to fix. That's what's at stake here. And hopefully, in that reform, we can give our veterans what they deserve. Good health care, good mental health care, and ultimately the respect they deserve. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. And until then, y'all have a good one.